So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Crypto Pulse Weekly. I am going to be very quick today because I have a commitment that I need to see to just on the cusp of the hour. Bam Bam, I'm going to need your help with the tokens you said you wanted to look. Just put them in the chat for
Okay,
me.
let me just I should
Yeah,
list
just put them
them.
in the
Okay.
chat. I'll start looking
Okay.
through them once I've gone through the major stuff I want to talk about today. So, good evening once again, and welcome to Crypto Pulse Weekly. Today we're talking about, of course, what's happening with Bitcoin. Some interesting news around something called BRC20. I don't know if you've heard about it, but there is a, and I would say portal. The upgrades on the Bitcoin network have sort of created a, and it's not really a backdoor, but it created, one of the updates created a way to facilitate the minting of tokens off the Bitcoin network. And what that then did was it made it possible for people to, the same way you mint tokens off the Ethereum network, and you can name those tokens whatever you want to name them. People were able to mint tokens off the BRC20 network. I mean the BRC protocol on the Bitcoin network. So because of this, the Bitcoin hash rates and mining costs and transaction fees skyrocketed. And the reason they skyrocketed is very simple. There's significant demand because all of a sudden something that was never possible before was suddenly possible. So people started um, minting their own BRC20 token. And of course, it made the miners wealthy in the bear markets because it meant the transaction cost skyrocketed and went through the roof. It made the users angry because the cost became higher and it became slower. You know, the way it is, your transactions will not move as fast as it should because you now have a whole pile. So, because of that, there's a lot of contention within the Bitcoin development community as to whether or not they should allow that protocol to stand. That is, should they scrap the protocol or should allow the protocol to stand? Well, of course, the arguments for and against. People that have not been able to meet Bitcoin tokens, quote and unquote, were suddenly able to do so. But on the flip side, it then makes Bitcoin almost like Ethereum in that regard. So the developers are not happy because yes, it's gonna push through the transaction costs. The miners will of course be very happy because they are the ones that get paid for security and posting the transactions. So for me, I think that they're probably going to succeed in scrapping it, only because I think most of the original developers are more towards traditional and conservative approach on how Bitcoin should be. On the other hand, on the other hand, there's a very high possibility that we might be looking at another Bitcoin fork, but that would be very, very. I don't want to use the word not catastrophe, but that would very. It would be a significant event if that happens. So a fork is an upgrade to the network, depending on whether it's a hard or a soft fork. A soft fork is just like a software update. It doesn't change the constitution of the network. Let me put it that way. And it doesn't change the fundamentals of the network. It doesn't change. Hmm, I'm looking for. I can't find a. I'm scratching my head for a medical comparison. I can't find it. I was going to say a fork is like a transplant, but it's really not like a transplant. A fork is like a software update when it's a soft fork. But when it's a hard fork, it's almost like you are doing a software migration. You are implementing a new system. Let me use that. That's probably better. So imagine you have your data in a particular computing system, then you update the system. If you update the system, that's like a soft fork, meaning there are newer features that are available, just like Microsoft has now gone Office 360. There are all sorts of gazillion stuff that you can now do on Microsoft that you couldn't do 10 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, I had a laptop. That laptop was heavier than that laptop, was like 30 kg. Big laptop, but I was in medical school. But I mean, that was very that laptop uses a floppy disk and a CD drive, and the CD drive was considered an upgrade then. The CD drive is the CD-ROM. We don't even use that anymore today. So the upgrade is like that software installation, like the one you get on your phone, and that's a soft fork. The hard fork is like system migration. You are moving away from Microsoft to Oracle, for instance, or from Oracle to SAP. So you are moving systems, but it's the same data, but you're moving system. So that's exactly what the hard fork does. So what the hard fork does is it discontinues from the old network blockchain, creates its own version, and continues from that point. So it doesn't discontinue without the history. So it goes with the history, but it starts behaving in a separate way from the way it used to behave before. So, for instance, if the what's the name of that fork? I can't remember the fork again. The hard fork in 2013 or thereabouts. That hard fork was what brought about the current Bitcoin that we have. So that legacy Bitcoin split into two. The first one was the original Bitcoin network, which is known as Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, BSV. Now, when the developers had a conflict, some people wanted the network to remain exactly as it is from when the original developers built it. Some other guys said we need to, increase network size, increase transaction limits. They wanted to make some changes. I think at that point, those changes were partly being pushed by some, big entities. Let me use that word. Uh, so they were influencing development environment, and so there was disagreement. So of course they put it to vote as per normal, decentralized organization stuff. But the people who wanted the hard fork got the better. So what then happened was the people who wanted the upgrades went with the new version of Bitcoin, which is the Bitcoin we have today. And then the original guys stood with their original network, which is the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, which is SV. So you can, in fact, let me look for it. It used to be very funny then because when when you listen to some of the guys, they speak with a lot of pain and bitterness. Some of the original developers, it's almost like they felt the other developers, the new school, if you were, that they betrayed them because as far as they're concerned, nobody should have touched the original network. So this is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. In fact, it's so, can you imagine? You hardly have, interesting. It's so not common and unknown that people hardly trade it. This is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. I'm sure some of you are probably hearing it for the first time today. So this is the original Bitcoin network. People still use it. Uh, People still trade with it, but the bigger boys moved on to the current Bitcoin um, that we have today. Uh, and I mean, there have been issues. There have been issues around. Okay, it's been attacked once and all that stuff. But the long and short of the story was there was an impasse between the developers. Some people wanted to go with the new school. Some people wanted to remain old school. And the resultant effect is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision and Bitcoin, essentially. It follows Bitcoin, by the way. It follows Bitcoin. Um, and honestly, I think it's a good trade. I'm just speaking objectively now. I mean, I'm not for or against. I understand the position of the guys that want to hold on to the original attributes of the original Bitcoin blockchain, and I understand the position of the guys that want an improvement. We should improve in life. So, understandably, those guys were not happy um, that the things went the way it went. But I just brought it up today because of the BRC20 contention. If it becomes a big issue and there are calls for a major upgrade and there's a similar impasse, then most likely um, we might get a Bitcoin fork anytime soon. And if there's a fork, of course, there's going to be massive movement on the markets. But now that I'm looking at BSV, honestly, it's looking like a very juicy, very juicy market, as you say. It's not looking bad at all. I mean, give me a second, please. Let me measure the distance from the top. So this top is 5th of April of 2021. That was the peak of the bull run. The first peak of the bull run. Let me see. From that point to where we are now, wow, 93%. So it's now behaving like an altcoin. I think this is a good, yeah, 52. Yeah, this is a good, decent price level. I'm not saying it's good to buy now, of course, because it's trading. You need to look for Bitstamp. Where is Bitstamp? It's so funny that even wow, interesting. Wow, even the main exchange is no longer dealing BSV anymore. Interesting. All these guys are newer guys, except for KuCoin, of course. All these guys are newer guys. Wow, how time changes. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, it's still a good buy, no doubt about it. From this point to wow, frankly, back to all time high is I mean, it's definitely in the works. Once Bitcoin bottoms out, I think Bitcoin's SV is a not only a good buy, it's a safe buy for Etenex. It's not a shit coin, but it's not a shit coin. This is the original Bitcoin that Satoshi and his guys started out with. The one we have now is an upgraded version. So it sort of trends after Bitcoin. Same thing with Bitcoin Cash. Let me show Bitcoin Cash. I'll come back to talk about Bitcoin later. I think Bitcoin is still going down a bit more. Bitcoin Cash is BCH. No, let's look for Bitstamp. Bitstamp has more history. So really, so that BRC20 token, for people that didn't know what happened and for people that just joined, there is an upgrade on Bitcoin that opened up an opportunity for minting. Let me use that word because minting is the capability that Ethereum has that has made many tokens become Ethereum based. So that patch, I don't know who opened the portal or whatever. They created the upgrade and then BRC20 were available. So immediately people found out that BRC20 was available. They started minting BRC20 token. Not only that, they started making NFTs of the BRC20 token. Of course, that started spiking the price. It's a good idea. Conceptually, it's a good idea. But it's almost like, let's say now, from a purely technical standpoint, it's almost like you are trying to overload the foundation. You know, even the skyscraper foundation is very basic in constituents. It's concrete, steel, sand, well, sand and cement and stone. They go with concrete. So We can say the concrete mix, which is sand, cement, stone, and everything else. The line, the wires and the cables. If it's water, if it's a waterlogged area, the waterproofing, and that's the foundation. And those are the simple constituents, and it can go as deep as you want it, depending on how you want the building to go. You don't need to, put all the fancy things that you want to put in the house in the foundation, because the foundation just needs to be strong. So from a technical standpoint, many developers will say you don't need to crowd out Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is like layer one. Instead of trying to crowd out Bitcoin, try to build everything on top of. And that's what Lightning Network is doing. I think Lightning Network is going to be very successful in the near term, because if they manage to revoke BRC20, what it means is they've killed the opportunity for anybody to be minting stuff on that network. And then that will pass on the opportunity to what's it called, the layer 2, like Lightning. And I mean, it's fine, because Lightning is a much more functional, from speed perspective, um, blockchain, and it's faster. So I think it would be more expedient to build the BRC tokens on Lightning Network, as opposed to trying to use the Bitcoin network itself. But enough with the technical jargons. But that's what's causing the volatility. So I think we're going to see prices go back to 417 or close to it. This is total crypto market cap without Bitcoin on a weekly basis, on a weekly level. It's not looking good. I think, excuse me, too tired. I think all altcoins are going to bleed on the back of this information. Let me see what tier one is going to be looking at. Same one. Altcoins are going to bleed, because basically what this is saying is money is coming out of the system, and this is the other key level is here, which we were in November, December, up until January. So possibility is that we stop here, which is where we were in March. But if we don't have anything to, hmm, it's okay. Okay, so we're in May right now. Two things. Thank God I remember this. I wanted to mention this. I think I mentioned it in March or April. I can't remember. But in June, which is next month, I mentioned it. Now I remember. In June next month, there will be a major event for not just Bitcoin, but crypto generally in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is going to allow Chinese nationals to buy crypto through Hong Kong. What that means, because what they are doing is they are officially going to allow people to buy crypto in Hong Kong. What it means is that there's going to be a significant upsurge in demand for Bitcoin. So there are two ways to this playing out, and usually there are two ways it plays out in any market. They can be buy the rumor and sell the news scenario, or a build up to the news and everything goes bust, or everything goes bust just all the way to just before the news, and everything just takes off. So in this case, because Hong Kong is going to be allowing its citizens and residents to buy Bitcoin, and Chinese guys are able to go to Hong Kong, I think there will be a significant jump in the price of Bitcoin. And let me try to break this down and put it all together. I think I tried to talk about it last week, but yeah, I I sent out the wrong Zoom invite last week, so many people didn't hear what I was trying to say. So what I was saying last week was that the narrative of a currency, a global currency that's going to rival the US dollar, sounds very good on paper. It is appealing to people like Russia. China also wants to be part of it, but China doesn't want yuan, the Chinese yuan, to be that currency. I'll explain that and I'll say that again. So China wants a currency that's competing with the US, so that the autonomy of the US or the monopoly of the US will be broken in that regard, and we'll stop spending petrodollars and we'll look for another thing. However, China being the spear, the leader of the BRICS, they don't want the yuan to become that currency. And it's very straightforward. The yuan is the currency of China. If it becomes global currency, it means people need to be spending it outside of China. The Chinese government doesn't want that. I found that out last week. So the CCP, the ruling party in China, they don't care if you become, a trillionaire as long as your money does not leave the shores of China. So what you have is a whole stack of billionaires and hundreds of them, not in the units, hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands now of them that have made so much money in the Chinese economy that become very rich, but they can't take a pin out. So some of them they send their children to school here and use that opportunity to push some funds to them. But they're not really able to. There's no opportunity for capital flight in China. So China understands that the rich and wealthy guys don't want to stay under the vices and the grip of the CCP. They would rather go and spend their money in one island and leave. So they're not allowing them leave, and that's why they were so violent and vicious against Bitcoin, because they found out that Bitcoin was providing an exit hatch for those rich guys. So they don't allow people to take the money out. So China can't afford the yuan to be the global currency because it means everybody will spend yuan, and all their rich people will vacate immediately and leave them and sell off on their stock market. The economy of China will collapse in a snap. So I never had that perspective until 2 weeks ago. So given that perspective, I now understand that even though they're having that discussion, I think that discussion is just going to linger and linger around until the US dollar comes with their own CBDC, which leads me to the next item I wanted to talk about when I was talking about the guys in the US. There is a bill that is being sent to the states. I don't know the name of that bill. I need to find it. I'll find the name and number. I'll share it. It's supposed to be an amendment to the Universal Commodity something, UCC. But inside that amendment, they changed the terminology of what is to be referred to as currency. They changed money to be central bank digital currency, and then they said all crypto is illegal, including Bitcoin, and that the only legal standard that can be used on CBDC is the US government-backed CBDC, which will be owned by the US government. So many states have signed, but there's this one woman, I think it's South Dakota governor. The woman was just like all out for them. She was like, no, they're not signing. And she was the one that made everybody aware of what was going on, that actually they had put those things in there as a way to come out and bring CBDC for everybody in the US and say, we now own your asses. Sorry for my French, 1000%. So she's fighting back, and I think Texas is probably going to fight back. I think a lot of Republican states will fight back, because if they do sign it, what it means is that they've signed off the economic power of the states 100% to the federal government of the United States. And the power dynamics is not that, how do I put it? It's not that smooth between the states and the federal government in the US. So usually they will not want to do that. Because they will not want to do that, I foresee that bill will not pass. But I'm sure somebody's going to try to bring it back through another route. Why am I saying this? As we are talking about CBDCs, this is telling me that the Fed and the US government are secretly looking for ways to introduce CBDCs into the economy. And probably, there are various conspiracies. Some people said, it's probably CIA that created Bitcoin, and that they want people to be familiar with the idea of digital assets before bringing CBDCs. Whichever way it is, whether it's true or it's a complete fallacy, I think that crypto is here to stay. I think money in the future will be CBDC, completely digital, and will be on the blockchain. But at the same time, I think this technology will keys of wealth I was going to say communities of trust, but I think communities of wealth and wealth building will be an appropriate word. And what I mean by that is this: you see, we are the one that determine how much or what is valuable. So, for instance, if you say that if you saw a stone and it was shining and nobody told you that it was diamond, you might probably thought it was crystal and you just leave, because diamond in the rough doesn't look like diamond like we see. The diamonds that we see are polished diamonds. Diamond in the rough is barely perceptible from crystal unless you start passing it through light and all that. That's when you start seeing that, oh, this is different. So in its raw form, might not be so, you might not attribute value to it. So it doesn't cost anything. But when it becomes polished and packaged, then it becomes highly valuable. What am I saying? We we will have the opportunity because of crypto to create pockets of value, both at regional level in Africa, at national level, at state level, even at local government level, where people can come together and say, you know what, we're going to stick with this crypto or this Bitcoin or whatever it is. This is going to be our base of transaction, regardless of whatever anybody else wants. We will use this between ourselves. If we need to cash out, we will find brokers who will help us cash out. I think this will, in the time to come, I think humanity would be happy that this technology of Bitcoin came to be, because I think it will be a way out from government tyranny. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not an insurgent. I'm not against any government, but I understand how the world works because I'm a spiritual person. So I know the world government, knowingly or unknowingly, work for the devil. And because of that, the structure is being orchestrated to make it easier for a one world government. I know you've probably heard about it. You've heard about World Economic Forum and all that stuff. But everything is working to that. And it's inevitable. I mean, not to scare anybody, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen at some point in the future. I don't know when, but it's going to happen because everything in the world, technological trends, governmental policies, everything in the world is orchestrating itself towards that direction. And when CBDCs show up and becomes mainstay, and you have the level of surveillance that we have already now is scary. Not to talk of when 5G is in the the most remote places, and AI can pick out anything. It will be definitely logical then that you have a one world order. And I used to tell people that as a as a youngster, I used to wonder how will the world come to an end when people start talking about stories of the Bible or stories of apocalypse. And for a very long time, I couldn't figure it out. I think in the last 3 years, I figured it out. It's very straightforward. AI, AI, and what do you call that stuff? Um, Human brain, no, computer brain, CBIs. AI and CBI. Yeah, CBI was what I was trying to. CBI is computer brain implants or computer brain interface. You can Google it. So AI is already here. AI is going to take over a lot of things, but AI cannot function as AI without human bodies. So human bodies with the aid of CBIs, which are essentially computer chips in the brain, will perfect the art. By the way, just as a side, computer chips in the brain have now been tested to remove memories from the brain cells. So those chips can actually, as of today, there are chips that could be implanted in people's brain that will wipe out memories, complete memories. I'm not saying that to scare anyone. I'm just saying that for people to know that, yeah, the world is very, very close to implosion at some point. But why did I go into all of that? When you take a step back and look at technological advancement in the last 100 years and scale it back with the last 1,000 years, you find out that the acceleration is crazy. So I think CBDC Bank of England has said 2030. They're going to launch CBDC in UK 2030. I don't think I probably in fact I think by 2030 it'll be fully live in the UK. I don't have any doubts about that. Europe is also going to try to do this. If this current economic turmoil that is going on doesn't crash the global economy, another one will happen within the next 7 years that will crash the global economy, and then everybody will move to CBDC. Because by then, all the infrastructure for CBDC will be fully on ground. So what am I? Why did I go into all of this? Make some dough from this crypto cycle, but bear in mind that you will need to have both digital and non-digital assets in the future, because the aim of the World Economic Forum and New World Order is that you won't own anything. Everything will belong to the government, and you'll be happy, as they say, own nothing and be happy. Anyways, I diverge. Let me not talk too much about World Economic Forum, but it's important to know these things because some of these things are the things that are driving the macro. So when you look at the companies, the biggest fund managers in the world, and you look at the spread of their holdings, you almost begin to ask yourself, these guys own everything. For instance, very good example, like I said last week, Jeff Bezos doesn't hold the majority share in Amazon. He doesn't hold the largest amount of shares. That's true. It is owned by BlackRock. And we can go all the way like that to all the publicly quoted and listed companies. They are owned by the same set of people. So it's not in the interest of such bodies that you have a decentralization of capital, which is what Bitcoin is pushing. But we'll see how that pans out in the next. But I think the next 7 years really provides opportunities for wealth accumulation because we're going to have 10x from where we are now. 10x is guaranteed on any altcoin, any serious altcoin. I just showed you Bitcoin Cash. Was it Bitcoin Cash? No, sorry, Bitcoin SV. Bitcoin SV from here is 10x. If you go to no, not DXY, Phantom, for example. I'll do Phantom for you. You see what I mean now. Let me switch to weekly. From where we are now, let's say we give it another 3.6, let's say 0.3. From where we are now up until 950%. We'll scan it up all the way, it's 10x. So like I was telling somebody on the call before we started, any altcoin you get into now, you are going to make 10x. If you keep it at the back of your mind, you don't need to chase any coin. Frankly, you don't chase any coin. Anything you buy now, between now and the end of this month, you are going to make 10x in the next, how many months is that? That will be June. You're going to make 10x in the next 18 months after that. Guaranteed. Because the cycle is the Bitcoin cycle is the Bitcoin cycle. Once we hit the halvings calendar, which is April, I think it's now April 2024, the price starts to go up. The price starts to go up, regardless of what is happening. You'll find that the market will go back to all-time highs. And besides, if this year continues like this with this economic imbalance, by the time you get to next year, there'll be a fresh pool of what do you call it, quantitative easing, as they say, and the market will start to pump again. So I'll look at some of the ones that we've been given here. I have Rio. Give me a second. I think I've talked about this Rio before. I'm not sure, but I think so. Come on. Come market. I don't know. I don't know how it came to. I don't know how it came to Zoom. Anyways, let's start with Rio. Well, wow, this is strange. How would I be 3,000? So this is what's the total market cap? It doesn't even have any. Okay, it does. Total supply is 385 million, 358 million. Maximum supply is a billion. Circulating supply is two-third of total supply. Market cap is 1.1 million. That's still very low. And the, what's the price again? 004. That's the one. Okay. Well,
Hello, excuse me, Dr. Demi. I'm not
yeah.
sure if that's the way that's it.
You're not sure.
Is that yeah? Because is that the only real there?
Well, that's what came up.
Okay. Because I thought the ticker
Oh,
was
okay. There's one that is real Leo or real
okay. I think
Leo,
it's that
whatever
one.
that
Yes,
is.
because that's the ticker. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I
This one is
think it's yeah.
55,000. Come on, 55,000 or 55 million. Yeah, I've talked about it before because I think I saw this. I think I've talked about it before. Um, it's not a good buy yet. I think
Okay.
until it touches 0.1. 0.1 is a perfect entry or near perfect entry.
0.1. Okay.
Yeah. September 16, 2020. Yeah. I think 0.1 is a good buy zone. Anything between 0.1 and 0.12 is a good buy zone. So, I mean, just to explain why, technically, this is a head and shoulder pattern, which means there's a reversal. The reversal is still in play. The pattern will follow continually until it gets to the beginning of the counter pattern. So this is the beginning of the counter pattern here, which is 0.08. But because it topped out twice here, this is likely to be support for price. So 0.01, good market entry. That's the only thing I can say. I mean, 0.1 is good market entry. Because this is a very relatively new token, relatively new, it's barely a year old. Hold on a second. I'm looking for. There's nothing on. There's no story on them. Just how to buy. It would have been easier if. Let me see if we have anything in coin market cap. So, and the reason I said, any token, any altcoin is good now is because if the altcoin survives the bear market and gets into the bull run and it has a good project, then it's going to make a lot of money. Because when the market pumps, all the prices will go up. So React is an end-to-end blockchain SaaS software as a service platform for okay lifecycle management of digital securities. Access to 100%. I don't know this one is anyways. Let me not judge them before castigating them. Okay, so they're trying to position for digital private equity. Okay, fair selling case. At any rate, you get you should expect to get at least 10x on this one or 5x at the minimum. The next one is FRM. 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 Ferrum. Ferrum Network. Okay. Has recently been migrated from Binance Chain. Why did it go on Bitcoin Chain before? Why did it go on Smart Chain originally? Anyway, 331 million. One third circulating supply. Oh, diluted valuation infinity. Which kind is that? I'm not sure about this one. KuCoin. Okay, instead of KuCoin and GitHub, 96% from all-time high. Okay, so this is one of those tokens that was created at the peak of the first pulse of the bull run. Uh, in that case, what's this peak price here? The best I would stick with this price is 0.06, which is just 100% from where we are now. Because if they decide to sell off all their token as the price is rising, the price will never significantly rise. Not a huge fan of that one, I must say.
Okay.
Loop network. Loop network. There are two loops, by the way.
Up.
Yeah, loop ring. I used to know loop ring. I had it back
No,
sometimes.
no, it's a loop network.
Loop. Variable tax function on the smart contract, which allows contract owners to change the tax rates post deployment. That's a bad flag, by the way. It's like all those BNB smart contracts that will deduct your money once. Will charge you 10% when you want to withdraw. Something crazy. Nah, not a big fan of this one as well. The price looks good technically. A good entry will be 0.048. Where is it now? 0.07. Yeah, 0.048 to be a good entry for this one. But the important thing is, one, if you're buying this kind of thing, you need to track them. For me, I'm not spreading myself so thin this bull run. I'm just going to focus my focus, as they say. Because otherwise, you run a risk of spreading yourself so thin and not all the projects to perform. So you need to be wary of that. I like the fact that this guy has so many zeros, by the way. Even though the maximum supply is mad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one is all this? These numbers are confusing me. Or maybe I'm just tired. 500,000, 500 million, 500. What is this now? 500 billion. Am I right? Is it 500 billion, please? It's 500 billion, right? Yeah, it is. 500, 500 billion, 500 billion. Come on, man. What? Yeah, that's why it's going down. He has to go down. 500 billion tokens. For what? Anyways, at your own risk, Bamba. Very much at your own risk on this one. Even though it looked nice from beginning, but I mean, it dropped 98%. See, it's dropped 90. It's almost dropped 100% from opening price. What's it called? The tokenomics is not good. Tokenomics is not good at all. Yeah, not good. Not good. I'm not saying it's not going to rise, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Let me see how many stations, how many people are selling it. Okay, Pancake Swap meant gets. This is too risky. I'm talking on live, so it's too risky, frankly speaking, because and I'll explain my rationale just so you know why. When I'm looking at these coins, I'm looking at what is the maximum supply, how much do they have, what has been supplied already, 431 billion. That's what this is, and the circulating supply is already 334 billion. So there's still about 25% out there, probably with the devs, that they can choose to sell if the price goes up. So, and again, I'm not saying it's not going to go up. I mean, something that's been down 98%. I mean, if that is down, it fear no fall. it can only go back to 2%. It can only go 2% further down. But it has like 10x to go up. So really, if you have the stomach for risk, this kind of risk, I don't like this kind of risk. It's you can buy, but it's not a financial advice. Any other question before I close for the day? I think I'm tired today. There was something I wanted to check on Arbitrum. By the way, um, people should watch out for Arbitrum. I think I've talked about Arbitrum before, but I think oh my God, this is very good. It's a very very good. How come I'm just seeing this? Okay, that's changed. Nevertheless, let me go back to that one. This is a very good buying opportunity for Arbitrum. Very very good buying opportunity for Arbitrum. Classical bottom. From here, what's the price now? 1.07, 1.14. If this continues into the bull run, it might be a very fantastic design. I need to check this on the charts. It looks really nice from a technical standpoint. I used to have that Arbitrum open somewhere. Okay, I think that's it from my end. I don't know if you have any questions before. Let's just take them before we move. And greetings to all the people on Instagram. Adil, Arbitrum, Arbitrum. So who is selling Arbitrum? It's not here now. BitMEX. Oh, what is it higher? It's not really. It's not apparently not been selling. That's strange though. So who's been selling it before now? Okay, I think that will be it for mine. Just a quick one on Bitcoin before I close. Bitcoin is going down on a head and shoulder. Um, the bottom of the shoulder is 20K really. But as I said, if 25K holds strong, meaning there's a lot of buying pressure by the time it got 25K. If it gets, it's too close to 25K already. It has dipped 25K today, so it's still going to go back there and retest it. That blue zone was an area that was our support before, our resistance before. So technically speaking, if the price holds within this blue zone over the next few weeks, then that's how the price will be till before halving next year. Maybe like 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks before halving, before the price starts to come down again. All right, guys, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Do have a lovely evening and a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Nice. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you, Doc. Bye bye.
Thank you and bye.